This is my rebuttal, right?
Oh, no, this is your
this is my presentation, okay. All right, well, let me get a different group of papers here. First off, thank you for having me. This is a great opportunity. I've been to a couple of these forums, and I'm honored that a group of people that are so even-minded are hosting an event like this, so thank you very much. Like it was said, my name is Jay Clough. I was born and raised right here in the Tri-Cities. I went to elementary school at Eastgate and again at Washington, and I went to high school at Kennewick High School, graduated from there. I went target shooting with my dad out behind Jump Off Joe. I went for burgers at Zips, ate all you could eat at Roy's, and on Saturdays, if I was lucky and worked hard enough at our family small business, my dad would take me to Ruff's on Saturdays. As you can tell, that love of food has followed me throughout life. Quality cuisine in the Tri-Cities. 3 days after my 18th birthday, I joined the Marine Corps, where I served as a section leader and a vehicle commander, because I wanted to serve my country, and I chose the hardest challenge I could find, the infantry. In my family, military is something that you do, because we're very patriotic in our family. 4th of July rivals Christmas in our family. College was a maybe, but military was a definite. Using the GI Bill, I earned 2 degrees from Central Washington University in the time that it usually takes a student to get one, because I believed, and I was raised to believe, that making the most out of your opportunities is the right thing to do. While in college, I studied abroad at Beijing, China, in Peking University. I studied in Ewha University in Seoul, South Korea, studying language and culture at both universities, where I met my wife, Erica, and later took a job at Hanford working as a radiological control technician at the tank farms. In addition to this, I'm active in my community. I volunteered to teach junior achievement at a local elementary school. I volunteer at the annual Red Cross Turkey Trot in Columbia Park. Some of you may have seen me there. I see Brad there every year. And I sit on the board of the Columbia Basin Master Singers. I'm a former member of the Hanford Region Conservative Senator's Capital Campaign Steering Committee, where I served with Dr. Kohler. And I was appointed by the Washington State Commerce Department to sit on a Hanford Area Economic Development Board, HATEC, if you know what that is, where I serve as chair of the Public Loans Subcommittee and member of the Grants Subcommittee. What I'm getting at is, I'm from this community, I'm invested in this community, this is my home, and this is where I want to represent us. One of the challenges that I see in our political system is the short-sightedness of not thinking long-term about a future without Hanford. I believe that it's important to create a climate that actually encourages business to relocate in the Tri-Cities. A climate that creates real economic incentives for small businesses to grow, a climate that helps create an educated workforce, and a climate that creates infrastructure needed to support both small and large businesses. We need targeted tax breaks for the sole purposes of job creation. We need to support community and technical training. And we need to streamline permitting of our small businesses. Our small businesses want to play by the rules, but our state sometimes makes it difficult. Entrepreneurs start businesses to follow their dreams, not to become environmental scientists, accountants, or lawyers. We should be helping them to succeed, not crushing their spirit with confusing and unreasonable regulation and taxes. We need to have elected officials that know how important the Red Mountain Interchange is to daytime employment in West Richland and employment in general in the Tri-Cities. A community that doesn't have direct access to a highway system is at an incredible disadvantage to those that do. In 5 to 10 years, I hope to see a thriving manufacturing sector in West Richland, utilizing transportation upgrades that I will fight for. I believe that we should continue to develop the infrastructure in South Kennewick, should work with Tridec to ensure that the 1,600 acres they're opening up out there are used for an energy park, manufacturing, and high-tech industry development. And I also believe that Washington State should work with the federal government to expand the Tri-City Airport before residential houses limits our ability to create runways that will allow for larger aircraft and help us get our future manufacturing goods to ports in Western Washington and around the world. In this community, wine is a billion-dollar industry, but it could be so much more. We need to continue to support our growers and wineries and find ways to help them promote their wines nationally and abroad. Some incredible research is being done in our universities and will be done even more effectively at the WSU Wine Science Center. But we must have an even stronger commitment to this industry moving forward. Our wines are among the best in the world, and we have reason to be proud. Let's resolve as a community to narrow the gap between California and Washington. Finally, we must fully fund education, stop demonizing classroom teachers, and bring all of the parties to the table to discuss common sense solutions to our educational challenges. If we are to continue being a successful community, we must support students and teachers in our primary, secondary, and post-secondary schools. And we must end the stereotypes of trade schools and apprenticeships as somehow inferior to traditional classrooms. It will require students educated in traditional classrooms, as well as in trade schools and apprenticeships, to attract manufacturers to our area and convince them that we have a viable pool of workers for them to hire. All of these ideas that I've laid out today will most likely take years to accomplish, but we should not allow that to dissuade us from beginning now. Many of these ideas should have been enacted a decade ago, and now we're running behind. We should be thinking 20 years ahead, not in 2-year election cycles. We can no longer kick the can down the road. Now, I'm going to take a guess here and try to do a service to the group. There's a pretty good chance that instead of asking me a meaningful question about the issues really facing our district right now, my opponent may go straight to the wedge issues. Those issues that professional politicians use to define themselves in opposition to their opponent and to divide voters. And I'd like to save him some time, so bear with me. On the issue of abortion, due to my personal religious beliefs, I'm pro-life, as far as this issue would affect my family. But this issue was decided about 40 years ago by the Supreme Court, and everyone in this room probably has a very well thought out and calcified opinion on the issue. I'm not here today to try to change your mind, nor am I under the false assumption that I probably could. My personal belief is that when women don't turn, women don't turn to politicians for advice about birth control, mammograms, cancer screenings, or treatments. Politicians should not be involved in a woman's personal medical decisions about her pregnancy. Same-sex marriage. While campaigning, I've been to 10,000 doors in this community, and I've had 2 people, literally 2 people, ask me about same-sex marriage. And I've had almost the entirety of the rest of them ask me about jobs in the economy. Honestly, this issue is going to be decided by the voters, and I trust the voters to make the right decision. That being said, if this is the one issue that you decide your vote on, I'll tell you that I think that 2 consenting adults who love each other and want social recognition of their commitment to each other should be allowed to have the same opportunity that I had when I met my wife and my best friend. I'll assume, however, that if you're a Badger, you're making voting decisions on a multiple array of issues, not just one. At the end of the day, I'm a conservative, and I believe in limited government. And it's none of my business, honestly. My focus is on the economic development and diversification of this community to prepare us for a future without Hanford, and creating business-friendly environments to attract employers and facilitate the creation of jobs. But this leads me to why I wanted to get involved in politics in the first place. We have a government that's broken, that can't manage its budget, and that can't come together to solve real challenges in our communities. If we continue to be manipulated by politicians over these sorts of issues, we'll continue to have a government as dysfunctional as it is, and politicians that focus on what divides us rather than on what unites us. On marijuana, I know you guys are peaked on this one. I feel uncomfortable with medical marijuana laws being used as a backdoor to legislation. I think that we should put these types of questions to voters, and if proponents can make an effective case, then it will be legalized. And if they can't, it won't. This is exactly what Washington State is doing, and I couldn't be happier. I'll support whatever you, the voters, decide on this issue, as I feel that's the appropriate way to decide this issue. And again, I trust all of you in this room to make the right decision based on your personal convictions. On taxes, Democrats often get labeled as being tax and spend, justly or unjustly, but I feel that the values of our community should always trump party politics when it comes to our elected officials. I'm a proud product of this community and share the values of this community. I believe the B&O tax is a regressive burden on our small businesses. I believe that if the people vote to require a 2/3 majority on all taxes, then that state should respect the voters' decision. I will never vote for a tax increase that you wouldn't approve. Furthermore, I don't think a tax increase is necessary if our elected officials will start investing in our communities and attracting small businesses. On the other hand, I think it's inappropriate for an elected official like my opponent to swear an oath to a third party like ALEC or Grover Norquist that may or may not have a specific interest in our community and actually has more interest in a national agenda. I think that as an elected official of this community, I should listen to the voters of this community first and foremost. I agree with Republican Chris Christie. It's simple. We need politicians to care more about doing something and less about being something. Thank you so much for having me and letting me speak to you today. Please vote for me on November 6th.